Hi.
Hi. Oh,
Sorry.
well.
I should have warned you. I
Oh,
mean, I
well.
actually didn't know for sure, but now we know the answer.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, because
Look,
it said you were unable to join, but here you are.
who knew? Now we know. Here
Now
I
we
am.
know. How you
I'm
doing?
here. I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
excited to be here.
I'm so excited to chat with you and just like shoot the shit.
I know. I know.
You
We do
know,
that really, really well.
we do. We're really good at
We're
talking.
really good at it. We're really good at it.
Okay, cool. Well, let's dive in because these hours go by really, really fast, and Instagram kicks you off after an hour. So we can
Okay.
just go ahead
Then
and dive in.
off we go.
Off we go. Um, so, you know, you were part of our Erica's wonderful monologue challenge, and you
Yeah.
watched lots of monologues, as did I. Not as much as Erica did, but
When I
I
heard
remember.
those numbers, I mean, it's first of all, it's amazing how many she went through, but just how many people responded to it and how many actors submitted. And
Yeah,
that was really awesome. And early on, too. And I think that that
yeah,
kind of set the tone for a lot of us not really knowing
yeah.
what to do to keep busy.
Is that Boots that I see in the background?
Um, Live in person boots? No. Oh,
Yeah. Oh.
no.
I thought I saw Boots' reflection and I got very excited because
Oh,
I haven't
no.
seen him in a long time.
He's around here somewhere.
Okay. Boots is a dog, just so everyone's aware.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, okay.
Well, if he makes an appearance, I certainly won't be mad about it.
Okay. Come here.
Um,
Say a quick hello. Come on.
Hi, Bootsy.
He
Oh my
misses you.
goodness. I miss him.
He's in
My Bootsy
heaven.
boy. I
He's in
bet.
having mom around
He gets you
24/7.
24/7.
Come on,
Lucky,
babe.
lucky guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really insane. And I know now the challenge that she's doing is like, I think she said like 6,800, or it's insane.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's really interesting, because we haven't watched, I mean, I haven't at least watched that many monologues on tape and, self tape format. Usually when we're sending out self tapes, we try to limit the monologues as much as possible because they're just not easy to nail, you
Sure.
know?
Sure.
Um,
Absolutely. And like
so, yeah,
not what we do on,
yeah,
a regular basis.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So, was there anything when you were watching them that stood out to you, like things that worked and things that didn't work?
um, I think that really, and I think that recognizing what level of emotion works within the confines of the space that
Mm-hmm.
you're inhabiting and are limited to when you're putting yourself on tape really is, I think, the key
Mm-hmm.
to like nailing it.
Yeah,
And a lot of that I think is probably trial and error.
yeah,
Um, is this is this requiring me to go way bigger than what the camera is going to allow, or
yeah,
do I need to get up closer, do I need
mm-hmm.
to pull back a little bit? It's
Yeah,
all these tiny nuances within
mm-hmm.
this self-tape world that a lot of actors have already been living in, but I think
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of us in the industry are now recognizing that that's probably going to be our reality when all of this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
settled. um,
yeah. Yeah, and
yeah.
I want to talk more about that, but I think it's true and it's important to know, you know, when you come into the room with us, we have the ability to like zoom in on you a little bit or like put you in the best way that we think it like whether it's like we have full control over the lighting and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
and we are now just at the actor's disposal after this. So that's going to be tricky, and actors are going to be their own director and their own
Yes.
producer, and so it's going to be a learning curve, I think.
I feel like that's the best term for it. I think that it's going to require both sides of the camera to be patient, to be
Mm-hmm.
understanding, to be communicative.
Yeah.
When we start, is it all going to be just send in the tapes? Is it going to
Yeah.
be, no, we still want to work with the actors
Mm-hmm.
live over Zoom or over whatever? I think that that's probably going to differ
Yeah.
office to office.
Yeah.
But patience and not stressing about every little thing on both ends, I think is going to be very important and, rather key to this whole process. And know that if we need something changed, we are going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to expect that it's going to be perfection
Yeah.
first shot out of the gate.
Yeah. I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but I think it kind of segues into this nicely. But there's been a lot of talk on like, yes, there's probably going to be more self-taping after this just to be, take extra precaution. But is that going to lead to like a whole new system of casting? Like once we come out of this, and I know a lot of people have differing of opinions. And before you answer, I just have to say, I really hope not, because it's just like, it just makes our job harder, honestly, to orchestrate, like, God forbid, like a Zoom producer session, or it's just, there's a lot of technicalities that have to work in order for people to, I mean, we have to work so hard to get producers to see what we're seeing. And I feel like there's just going to be a whole nother level to that with
Yeah.
this,
Yep. Yep. I mean, and maybe is it a project that would have had live sessions? So then that's the office that's going to have the live Zoom session.
Yeah.
Is it an office that had people in but put everybody on tape and then, picked their top choices and sent those? So then there's maybe a little more freedom for those casting
Yeah.
directors. You
Yeah.
give the feedback, you have them retape, you narrow them down. I think it's going to have to be everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in our industry is going to be a little more open-minded or patient or whatever word you want to put in there.
Yeah.
That it might not be perfection immediately. You might have to recognize that, okay, like I recognize, I see enough of what I might be looking for in this character. Um, and I trust that with my direction, I can get this actor to where I need him or
Yeah.
her to be.
So a lot of actors have said or expressed concern that maybe because it's going to be a little bit more difficult for everyone and because it's, uncharted territory, that maybe we're going to go more towards offer only for even roles that we wouldn't normally do that to, and just start like giving reels to actors that we really know, so we don't have to go through that process as much. What do you think about that?
I mean, that that feels like a little bit of a stretch. That feels like sort of a fear-based
Yeah.
observation or comment or
Yeah.
I think that there are shows and projects and producers who are very, very open to that. I mean, you and I
Yeah.
we worked together on a show where
Mm-hmm.
our writers and directors, we had that luxury. We
Mm-hmm.
knew that if there were people that wouldn't necessarily come in for this one episode but would do it,
Mm-hmm.
and so we would have that mentality and we would
Mm-hmm.
show those demos. If it didn't
Yeah.
work out, it didn't work out. We'd have live
Yeah.
sessions, whatever. um, I think that whether we're talking about 6 months ago, 6 years ago, or 6 months from now, it still feels like the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
Are you limiting yourself by doing that? As a casting director, are you limiting your choices
Yeah.
by only considering these people with the demos?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't I don't know that it will really greatly affect that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, The only thing I can think of is that if, you know, on a show where they never make any offers ever, maybe they'd be open to
Right.
it.
Maybe they start it
But
now.
like, to me, that like wouldn't necessarily take away the opportunities from most of the
Yeah.
actors who come in for that show.
Right. 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 So let's talk a little bit about that show. Since you obviously have a lot of experience in the procedural role, not just on Criminal Minds, but you know, other things too.
Other things.
Other things. What do you think is like maybe a common or general note that you would give to actors for procedural auditions? Because they're a different tone, you know, it is a little bit different. So what's like a common thing?
Yeah. So, you know, before I answer that specific question,
Mm-hmm.
I will say, and this is something that I tell actors whenever I have the opportunity to speak with them, always know the tone of the project you're going in for. Always, always, at least to the best of your ability. If it's an episode of television, it's pretty easy to go and look back at some previous episodes or clips. If you don't have that luxury, maybe it's just sort of knowing what that channel or network tends to put out, or the executive producer, what they might have done previously, and just try to be as well informed about that as possible. With regards to the procedurals, you know, they're called procedural for, you know, for a reason, and they follow a very specific formula, and that differs slightly from show to show. Criminal Minds was a slightly different structure from CSI or Castle. But what was always very important was recognizing that an actor understood their purpose in the scope of the entire episode, like what purpose their role was. Were they there to, you know, do we need to see them be emotional throughout various scenes in the episode, or are they just there to deliver information and you know, get our agents from one story point to the next? And so it was usually, you know, the actors who got the roles definitely like understood what they were there, what their purpose was, what they were there to do.
Right.
And in, you know, obviously an interesting way, and still give you know, the characters some personality, but not necessarily make it about themselves.
Right. Real quick, someone just asked if it's a pilot and there's no information, what can you do? And I just wanted to say a Google search goes a really long way. You
These
know?
days, for sure. With
And
deadline and stuff.
Just a deadline article can give you a lot of information just to know what genre it is, what kind of tone it is. I mean, usually we try to say as much as we can in the breakdown to set you up for success, but obviously we can't say everything. So just Googling as much as possible, especially a lot of stuff is based off of a book or maybe a movie or something that you can dig into a little bit deeper. So if you don't have a lot of information given to you already, just be your own detective. You know, there's a lot that you can find out there. And then kind of to piggyback off of what you just said, a lot of actors, I think, and this is something that I noticed, you know, working on the show, was they had a hard time, you know, wanting to come in for those smaller procedural roles. And this was kind of like, I wanted to talk more about like the co-star, you know, smaller co-star roles.
Yeah.
And they have a hard time coming in for those roles and like, you know, basing their entire day around this audition that they got, which is exciting, and they want to come in and be the person to nail it. And it's hard for them to just let go, I think, and just do what's on the page and not try to make it something special. You know?
And so that goes hand in hand with procedurals and how, you know, we need it. We just need a great actor to be in the scene with our agents, be the cop who says, they went that way. Or the old lady down the street who said, I saw them run over, you know. We strive for the best actor, whether it's that one line or the big guest star bad guy. You know, it all needs to be real and genuine and believable and delivered by good quality actors.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't really like address what you said, but you know,
No, it's true. I mean, yeah.
I think you need to have the same attitude, whether it's one role or another, whether it's a
Right.
tiny one or a big one, and the attitude being there has to be something else in your day that brings you joy or
Mm-hmm.
brings or distracts you or gives you purpose so
Yeah.
that you are not obsessing about every little thing that every audition, every
Yeah.
word. It has to, you have to be okay with walking into the room, doing the thing, or walking in the room. I can't really use that phrase anymore.
Walking into your own room.
Walking, yes, whatever it is, it has to
Yeah.
be you did your job, you did what you were supposed to do. And even if it's your most favorite role that you've ever gone in for, it's done, it's out of your control, it's out of
Yeah.
your hands, and move on
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's, something that we notice a lot is they come in and it's like this like 1 to 2 word line. And they come in and they say it and we'll say simplify, and it's hard for them to wrap their mind, and they're like, but everyone's doing it this way, and it's like, yes.
And they're not going to get the job.
Yeah, and they're focusing so much on how can I stand out, because it's something that I sometimes hear actors saying, like, I need to
Yes.
stand out, I need to stand out, and it's really not always about that.
Not at
And so
all.
that's just especially when it comes to procedurals, it's actually the opposite.
I I would 100% agree with that. It's the opposite. We don't want you to stand out because then
Yeah.
you're going to indicate something to the audience that we
Yep.
don't necessarily want you to.
Right.
Like we it's so interesting. I mean, there's so much more that goes into creating and casting a show than just our job is to hire the very best actor ever for
Yeah.
each and every part. Like there's a bigger picture that we have to
Mm-hmm.
take into consideration. And of course, it has to be good acting, but it also, does this person look too much like one of our agents? Does this person not fit this world that we're creating in the episode? Does this person, as much as we might love her as an actor, just not fit the tone of our show?
Yeah.
It's so many of those things that go into it.
Yeah, totally. So working with you on that show was actually my first time doing a pre-read session in like 7 years or something like that, because I just don't do them anymore. And then after that, we didn't do them again. So you've kind of done both sides of it. And what I mean is, a lot of casting offices have their own preference where they will bring in actors for a pre-read, choose their favorites, call back actors for the producer session, or we just put everyone on tape for producers and they make their selection through the way.
Yeah.
So what do you like? Do you have a preference?
So I think an element of that is out of my control because it depends on what my producers prefer.
Yeah. Right.
Do they want to be in the room for that final session? Do they want to have a producer session, or is that not something that they're necessarily interested in? And so we just send them our top choices. So it used to be that I hated the idea of not having live sessions. And I think the pre-read, like that sort of is if you have your live producer session, then you're going to have a pre-read session.
For sure. Right.
But like if you're not having the live producer session, then they're not separated in a way. Like it's you're just bringing in the people that you want to bring in, and then whoever is right for it, whoever gives the best read, that's who you send over. So I was raised in this industry on pre-read sessions and producer sessions, and we had the director and We had one of the writers was like the casting.
Oh, you froze for a sec.
Can you,
Hang on.
am I
It's
back?
coming back. It's coming back.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay, good. I'm back.
Okay.
And and then on Criminal Minds, it was the director of the episode and then the writer of that
hmm
particular
hmm
episode. And so it varies from show to show, and that
Yeah.
was the way that I always learned it. And I could not imagine not having the feedback from those people, the energy that gets
hmm
created in the room with all of those people,
Yeah.
along with us as casting directors.
hmm
Um, and then I started working on projects that didn't have the live sessions, and it was just everyone being put on tape.
hmm
And that made me realize the control that you have, um,
Yeah.
and you're on your own timeline. You're not on anybody else's watch. You have
Yeah.
all the time in the world. You can do as many takes as you want with any of the
Yeah.
actors. You're not limited to the 6 or 8 or 9 or 10 whatever actors that you would be for a producer session. You're
hmm
bringing in, frankly, however many you want to bring
Yeah.
in. Um, so more actors would be given an opportunity for a role, knowing
hmm
that not everyone's going to make the cut, not
Yeah.
everyone's going to be up to snuff, and then you're going to narrow that down to the 4 or 5 uh,
hmm
reads that you send over for, to your producer. And I think that there's something really freeing about you being in control over what you want your
Yeah.
producers to see.
Yeah. Totally. Because I think that all the elements of a producer session, so, I mean, we've seen it can sometimes hinder performance, and
Mm-hmm.
certainly that's a skill that is required. But there is a lot more freedom, I would say, and a lot more time to um, for them to ask questions that they may not feel comfortable to ask in a producer session, um, and sometimes it's that question that can make or break a performance. So one thing that I want to say is, again, it was interesting for me because it was nice because I got to know the producers a little more and get to talk to them, interact instead of just over an email, just hearing from all these random people interject their thoughts. It was nice to actually talk to them in person. And it was really interesting to see the same thing that they were seeing in the same space and see how sometimes they saw something that I totally didn't see, you
Totally.
know. So I was
Totally.
like, whoa,
Yes.
but I think what's good for actors to hear is producer sessions can be nerve-wracking, and there can be an unexpected amount of people in the room, and a lot of times what I saw were actors not really sure how to handle that, especially when they walk in and there's like a panel full of people, and many times those writers don't really know what to do or what to say.
I, you have your producer who's literally like, I don't know
Don't
how
talk to
to
me.
talk. I don't know how to talk to these actors. What am I? Hello, hi. Just
Yeah.
start, please.
Yeah, they just like look to you and they're like, help. Talk to me, please.
So we always went out of our way to like grab the actor's eye contact.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you were the one that they checked in with.
Mm-hmm.
You made them feel comfortable. You made them feel settled. You let them know. I mean, I'd like to think that most offices, are like our office
Mm-hmm.
was. I don't know if that's the case, but that
Mm-hmm.
we're going to do everything we can to make an actor feel as comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
Um, the space is the space, and that might be a tiny little closet. It might be
Mm-hmm.
a massive trailer. There might be 1 or 2 people. There might be 8 people. You don't always know going in,
Mm-hmm.
but I think like find the faces that are familiar to
I
you,
was
or
just gonna say that.
find
Yeah.
whoever you're going to be reading with
Yeah.
and just
Connect with them.
yes, connect with
Yeah.
them and be with
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this doesn't, I've just thought of something, you know, because I think a lot of times we get asked that question of, is it okay to walk into the room in character and not say
Right.
hello or not
Right.
greet? And I'm like, yes, please. I mean, do you remember how many times we'd like have to walk out of that room and be like, guys, your wife was just murdered.
Oh, I know. I know.
You need to be sad.
Yeah.
You need
Right.
to be devastated.
Yes.
And so whatever the actor needs to do to get to that point, absolutely
Yes.
be in that space when you walk in the room.
100%.
You can say hello when you're done.
Yes, we understand. Like that's a really great point that I always try to tell actors is there is no expectation that when you walk through that room, we get a little taste of your personality. That is not part of the audition. You know, your job is to come in, do your homework, prep as best as possible so that you are really in line with that role, with that character, and you can have a great performance.
Yes.
And we have seen many times actors walk into the room, tears coming down their face because it starts off kind of right in the middle of that emotion in the scene. And then when the scene's over, you know, they wipe away the tears and like, hey guys, you know, and then you can kind of get out of it.
Yes.
And show us, you know, that if you want to show that side of you, that's fine. But please don't think that by coming, if you're about to come in for, you know, a really emotional scene, that
we don't need the sunny disposition walking in the room. That's almost, it's more jarring to be like.
Yes, it is. I've seen actors come in and they're talking about like, hey, are you a Red Sox fan? And blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, you're supposed to cry like 30 seconds here. I don't, you know. But that's also another point because sometimes, you know, the actors can do the prep work before they come in the room, but, you know, naturally they walk in the room and they get maybe thrown off for a couple seconds and they really need a moment to get back in there.
Yeah.
And I think that they tend to worry about, like, I don't want to take too long. And I do think that there's a fine line between doing what you need to do and taking, like, too long. So what do you think about that line?
I mean, I think that I think that it should be about getting to that place before you walk into the room. Mm-hmm. Knowing that you can, you know, if you start the scene, then you're in control. You don't even necessarily have to say anything. If the reader has the first line, maybe you just say to the reader, I'm just going to take one quick sec. I'll look up at you when I'm ready.
Yeah.
And look, you know that you can't take too long when you get in the room.
Yeah.
You cannot. Yeah. You need just a second to center yourself in that chair or in that space. Great. But you should be most of the way there when you walk into the room.
Yeah. So whether that means you need to distance yourself from chatty actors or listen to something or talk to someone, you do you. You know?
Do you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Yeah. Frankly, actors shouldn't be thinking that they're going to, you know, make new friends in the audition room. Yeah. If it happens, great. Yeah. But you do what you need to do to walk in and give the best read possible.
Yeah, totally. On that note, what would you say is the most common note that you tend to give actors in the room?
Ground it a bit more. Ground it. I feel like you need to ground her just a little bit more.
Yeah, and I feel like that's definitely like comes with the procedural role too, because it can be very dramatic.
Yeah, like when you're dealing with characters that you're pretty much dealing with all emotional characters that can get out of hand pretty quick. So you know, it's not about a tear streaming down a cheek. It's about real, genuine emotion. And so I think that the word grounded, I think, can encompass a lot of things when you're talking about overacting, big acting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just always want it to feel real.
Yeah, totally. I would agree with that for sure. Um, is there an audition moment that sticks out to you? I just love hearing about like maybe one moment that just really sticks out to you, and
Ugh.
what was it about that just, hangs out in that memory?
I like, honestly, I don't have a good answer for this. I really don't. Like, and I don't know, after like 16 years and
Yeah.
hundreds of episodes of um
You don't
I
have to
like
answer.
no, I like can't even. I just there's this no there's one audition that I keep, and I obviously will not say what it is or anything, but there is one audition that I keep that, when I need a good chuckle, I just pop this baby in, and
Because
it
because
always,
it's so good, right?
sure, it's really good.
I'm talking about good auditions here, Becky. I know what you're talking about. I'm not talking about I have a folder for this.
Where
We don't
you're
talk about
just
this.
like, oh my God. Okay. Um, I'm at a loss. I don't have a good
Okay.
answer.
Wait, what about favorite project? What's been your favorite project so far?
My favorite, I have a couple. Can I name a couple?
Of course you can.
Um, I mean, they're all my favorites.
I
I
mean,
I loved working on Just Go With It, which was an Adam Sandler movie, because that was my first big feature and my first
mhm.
like comedy
Yeah, so
thing.
fun.
And it was like, okay, well, it doesn't get much funnier and more
Yeah,
like a classic
yeah,
comedian kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, Working on my AFI film day one, because I mean, obviously the outcome was amazing because it was
yeah,
nominated for
yeah,
an Academy Award, but the process was also super, super interesting. And I got to meet so many actors that I had never met before because
yeah,
of I needed them to speak Dari.
yeah.
Um, and then probably my favorite project process wise was American Horror Story,
Mm.
because I mean, that season was just,
You worked on the best season.
I think
You,
so.
that's not
I
an
think so.
opinion.
And you're meeting these incredible people, and Ryan Murphy is giving people opportunities, and
Yeah,
it just was such an honor to be a part of, but also like it was being able to work on such interesting and creative material outside of the procedural world was
yeah.
was just a really special experience.
Um, quickly talking more about day one, I think it's really interesting to hear that story. Um,
Which part of it?
like what was that? That was that the one where you found little
Mm-mm.
no,
No,
which one was that?
no. That was a few years later. That was
Okay.
uh, Akeda, which was
Okay.
another AFI
Yeah.
AFI film, and he was living in Florida, and his agents submitted, and Lisa really like responded to him and made that happen for him. And I mean, I think he got the Mark Wahlberg movie like
Yeah.
pretty soon after the short
And
film.
now he's living in LA, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was doing this huge movie.
Yeah.
Gustavo.
Gustavo.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Cutie
Um,
little thing.
yeah, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I talk a lot about reels, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
because I think they are supremely important. And up until recently, it occurred to me how many times actors would say, "Do you even watch reels?" Which like blew my mind. Um, and that's when I was like, well, not only do we watch reels, but that's how we decide who we're bringing in,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
So, it, and I mean, we watch so many damn reels
So
and
many. For
things work.
Go. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, right. No, I know. It's true. Because that, I mean, that's, we do it for hours upon hours a day and things work and things don't. And we can talk more about that, but I think there's a lot of different conflicting opinions about a lot of things pertaining to reels, and I think the biggest one is for actors who maybe don't have enough footage to round out a reel that shows what they're fully capable of. And we talked about this a little bit before, but I think it's good for actors to hear, whether they put a scene on tape in self-tape format or they go and produce something themselves, like what matters most. And I certainly have thoughts about this, but I want to hear from you what you have to say.
Yeah. So I think that it's so easy to put something together for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe not even put something together, but just put a scene on tape, and
Yeah.
that's what you put on Actors Access. That's
Mm-hmm.
what your agents or managers, use. That's what's on your website.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that if you're gonna do, if you don't have the auditioned for and booked footage as part of your reel yet,
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you're going to either use a self tape
Mm-hmm.
or a scene that really showcases who you
Mm-hmm.
are and what you can do,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say just make sure that it's good quality if that's what you're going to put out there and have casting directors see, if that's what we're watching rather than your scene from Grey's Anatomy, your
Mm-hmm.
scene from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I don't know why I
Sure.
just thought of that. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But, if we're not watching something like that, then make sure it's good.
Yeah.
And if you're in
And
a
yeah.
scene with someone else,
Yes.
I feel like they should be at a decent level as well.
Yes. And something that, I think we were talking about this before, or Jessica was talking, I feel like you were there. We were talking to Jessica, and she was saying that the biggest thing for her and for me, and I think you said this too, was that like the distraction factor. So like if you're gonna shoot something yourself and produce it yourself, that's fine. But like we watch all different types of footage. Like
Yeah.
we've seen scenes shot in your studio apartment kitchen, and if that's what you have to offer right now, that's what you have. But if you don't have the equipment to, if it's really acousticy and we can't really hear you, and it's just like, it's going to take us out of it. And if
Yes.
you don't have the ability to produce a full-fledged production, that's fine, but then your better option is probably going to be putting a scene on tape in self-tape format.
Yes.
Some people do. Some people have, their roommate is a DP or whatever, and they have access to.
And that's great.
Yeah,
And that's great for
yeah,
them. But I think,
right.
what you're saying is very right. Like, I am definitely someone who says, like, if I think that when you're talking about a self-tape, actors tend to start focusing on the things that aren't important. So if you're actually making a self-tape that you're submitting for, like, as an audition, and you're sending it in, the the bottom line is the work and the performance.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to see you. We need to be able to hear you. But the truth is, if it happens to be that you worked all day and then you came home and you put your kids to bed or whatever it is, and you just need to do it, and it's in your kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
the performance is what's going to stand out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, that being said, that shouldn't be what you use on your reel.
Yeah.
If you're going to use footage in that category, it should not be it should be the best that it can be.
Yeah. I
And the
agree.
best quality that it can be. So
Yeah.
I do want to differentiate, my opinion on those
Mm-hmm.
two
Mm-hmm.
things,
Mm-hmm.
because I recognize that sometimes you just don't have all the time in the world or the money to go make it the most
Yeah.
incredible thing.
Yeah.
But if you're going to use it as your reel, as a piece of, showcasing the best you,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you should spend a little bit of money if you need to go get it professionally put on tape.
Yeah. Agreed. I think it's just about what is more feasible to you, putting a really great scene on tape in self-tape format, and you have a really nice setup for that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's your best option. If you have access and finances to put on a full-fledged production, which is not required in any way, then
No.
go for it, But it's just about, like, if when you watch something, and I'm talking to actors, like when you watch something and the lighting isn't great and it's like the sound is all muffled, like you get bored. So you only have so many seconds when
Yes.
we're watching reels with thousands of submissions, that if the first thing we're going to click on is like a very like acousticy sounding thing that you've put on in the park, it's just, we're going to lose focus.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. It's like it shouldn't be something to agonize or stress over.
Yeah.
It's common sense.
Yeah.
Like it's should always be professionally produced. So if that's not something that you were on a professional set for, then it should just be in someone's studio or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're going to do a self-tape, great. Get your self-tape studio together, go to a self-tape studio. It's like usually $15-20 or something compared to however much it is to produce something.
I have a question back for you. Do you
Yeah.
think that if an actor doesn't have the professional footage, meaning like a booked job,
Mm-hmm.
do you think there should be a limit to how many self tapes they might post or use as their reel?
I mean, if you don't have the booked work, like what else do you have? That you have to start somewhere. And like
Yep.
the series that the TNT series that Jessica and I did was, we booked the leading series regular role off of a self tape she did like in her apartment in New York. You know, like that was what the agent pitched to us, and I was like, sure, she looks great, bring her in. So I think whatever it takes to show you have to start somewhere.
Yes.
And I think to focus less on all of the rules and focus more on how can I show someone what all of my training has accumulated to, and to figure out what the best way of going about that is. Sometimes it's not writing a scene, because then your scene partner tries to steal. And I've seen that happen a lot, where actors write their own stuff and they do it with another actor, and then I'm focused on the other person. If
Yep. Yep.
especially if both of you are trying to use this footage for your reel, that's something that I've seen before. So like I'm working with someone right now who really doesn't have much of anything. But she just graduated and she's really eager to get started. And so what are you going to do? And I mean, you're not kidding anyone. We see your resume. We know you don't have the experience.
Yeah.
There's no need to lie about it.
Yeah.
So
It is what it is what it is.
it is
For
what
sure.
it is. So I suggested picking a few contrasting, really great self-tapes on tape and self-tape format, and stringing it together, and not trying to, again, to fool anyone by saying it's your reel, but just saying these are some selected self-tapes that I've done. And that's what it is. And
Yep.
she just graduated. She doesn't have a lot of experience, but this is what all of her training has accumulated to, and she's showing us what she's capable of. And then hopefully someone will see potential in that, and she'll be right for something. And then she can start taking those self tapes out and adding real footage in. But you have to start somewhere, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree, and I think that over the past couple of years, and now even more so, we're all much more open to seeing those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I think a few years ago it was like, well, this isn't,
Right.
this isn't a reel. I'm not watching this.
Right.
And I think that that mentality is definitely, if not completely gone, close to it.
Yeah. I mean, our casting process has changed so much, and even over the last 5 years, there's just been a large influx in self-tapes, and I don't think it's due to any sort of like laziness or just wanting to get things done, digitally. I think it's personally, I think that it's stemming from all of the content that's been coming out, and all of these new platforms, and people are just so eager to get stuff produced, and it's great. I mean, outside of the situation we're in now, there's so much content out there. Like, who knew Verizon would come out with their own network,
And IMDb TV, is that like a new?
Yeah, Facebook TV. I mean, you name it, So, and now Apple is going to be right up there with Netflix and HBO. So, I think that because of all this content, our process does have to change a little bit, and we do have to be a lot more efficient with our time because there's a lot more work for everybody, and hopefully that will continue to be the case after this. But it also opens up, ideally more opportunities for more actors, and we also have to be more open-minded with the kind of footage that we're looking at.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with when we're getting pitched to actors. If they don't have anything that's appropriate for what we're casting, then they're going to send us self-tapes anyway, So the majority of reels that I'm watching aren't anything mind-blowing.
Sure. Sure.
Anyway.
And, like I've always felt in whatever version, Hollywood world we're living in, I never wanted to be the casting director who let the great actor go. So if someone sent in a self-tape, even if it was unsolicited, if someone sent in whatever it was, like, what if that was the person? What if that's the actor? And so I just think that we're so open to seeing whatever it is that we're given access to.
Yeah.
Because that could be the one, like that could be the actor. So it's always worth having something, even if it's in your mind not what you think it's supposed to be. Just having something to showcase yourself is gonna already put you one step ahead and one step closer.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify a couple of questions that I saw. Someone said, if we use our self-tapes in our reels, should we include our slates? No.
Great,
you
good.
Don't have to use your slate. I put a comedy self-tape and a drama self-tape monologue and an at-home scene for the beginning of my reel. So that actually brings up just another point. And I'll just kind of say what I think about that, and you can tell me what you think. When working on shows like Criminal Minds, where it's 99% very just straight up drama, it's so much more helpful for me when I can just spot, there's my dramatic reel and here's my comedic reel. It's like, great, I can be much more efficient. I'm just going to click on the drama reel because while I love to laugh and watch me some comedy, don't need it right now. So being able, if you have enough footage, being able to separate by genre, I have found to be incredibly helpful so that I can move more efficiently.
Yeah, and I know actors ask that question quite a bit. I'm told that it's, the more links you have, so like the more subdivided it all is, the more expensive it can be.
Yeah.
So I think that that's all wonderful when we go in and we click and we see doctor scene, lawyer scene, whatever. But I think having it divided in such a way is not necessary or mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that and you want to, great. But I think like having it divided in comedy drama, that's kind of all we need, and then we can take
Yeah.
it from there.
Yeah. So somebody just said, yes, always separate and label appropriately. People are going to have different opinions on this. My opinion is the opposite of that. I don't like separate clips. I get very overwhelmed by separate clips when I pull up an actor's profile and I have 1,500 submissions to go through and 19 other roles that I have to go through. And I pull up a profile with separate clips and I'm like, I don't know where to start. Like, I don't know what like sad mom really means. Like,
Sure.
and yes, I've watched the entirety of Mad Men, but I don't know what scene this is, you know, but I do open up a reel and I watch the first few seconds. And if I see strength and ability there, then I'm going to click forward and watch a few seconds of the rest of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Sometimes for those specific, like if the thousands of cops that, you know, we cast, or like a SWAT officer, sure. But like I hadn't cast a lot of those roles before coming on Criminal Minds. I was casting, you know, like it wasn't, Criminal Minds was so specific and procedurals are so specific because they're not serialized. So there usually wasn't, we didn't have a lot of recurring roles.
Right.
And so that's a different scenario. But when you're talking about a show where a lot of the roles do recur, like I'm looking for just strength and ability because I don't know what the next episode's going to throw at you. And I just want the best actor for the job. You know,
it's not right. It's not so specific, a category, a type.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's really fun watching the
I know.
watching the comments.
It's
I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, so either I'm talking
You're
to you
preaching to the
or
choir.
reading.
It's so hard. I don't know how people do it. They just like scroll through and I'm like, I can't, I need to stop and read. But someone did say if you're bilingual, you know,
Oh, I
do like
see.
a Spanish reel and an English reel. And I do think that that's personally helpful, you know, for the majority, obviously, of the things that we're going to cast, it's going to be in English.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we do cast roles that have a specific language. And it is helpful to, if we're casting a role that needs to speak Spanish, watch the reel. Wow, they're a really great actor. Oh, and they have a Spanish clip or a Spanish reel, whatever it is that you want. And just to be able to validate that you actually can speak the language.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And certainly if you're now, you know, booking, you have multiple things to put on each of those clips. It might be worth separating. Someone asked about the length. I think because you can so easily take it or leave it, you can so easily skip forward. You can do those things that like,
you're in
if
control.
you have fantastic scenes, if you have multiple fantastic different scenes and it's longer than 2 minutes, then it's longer than 2 minutes. It's up to us whether we, you know, watch the entirety or not, or just keep skipping forward. So
I totally agree. You know, we're in control. You know, I mean, I don't recommend like a 10-minute reel, but if you have like a 5-6 minute reel, I'm not obviously not gonna have time to watch the entirety of a 6-minute reel. I'm not gonna have the time to watch a 1-minute reel. I mean, let's be honest.
From start to finish, exactly.
If I watched a 1-minute reel for each submission, I'd sleep at the office, you know. But we are in control, and again, you really just want to focus on whatever length of your reel, that every second, every minute of that reel is your strongest work, so that no matter where somebody clicks forward, they're only seeing your strongest work. You know. And then that kind of goes with somebody saying, how long should you have the self-tape in your reels? So again, it doesn't have to be the entirety of the self-tape, and I would actually suggest not putting the entire self-tape in there. You know yourself, hopefully, best, and so I would just take the very best seconds out of that, or just take the seconds that show maybe a different side of you that you don't have in your reel to contrast from, you know, your other footage. It doesn't have to be the entirety of the self-tape.
Agreed.
Cool. Sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions. You should be answering them.
No.
Let me see. I'll put up a fancy little question right here.
Ooh.
Fancy. To kind of generalize the prop question, everyone has a different opinion on props. I'm going to take this off so it doesn't go over your face.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on props?
Uh,
It went away. Sorry.
yeah, no, I was just reading. I'm not anti-prop. I just think that you have to choose very, very carefully. Um, is it a scene in a bar where you're like taking drinks or shots or something? Then maybe you might use something to indicate that.
Right.
A scene with a gun, I'm perfectly okay. I can't tell if you're going to agree or disagree with me
Well,
on
I
this.
mean, I was going to say, obviously, don't bring in anything resembling a
That
gun.
like looks like a gun.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah,
correct,
yeah.
correct. But I am more than okay when people use their cell phones,
Totally. Yeah.
because you have to think of the physicality,
Mm-hmm.
and what you're in a scene, and you pick up your arm and you're like drawing a gun at someone. It you need that in the
You need the
scene. You
power.
need the power. You need
Mm-hmm.
the shift.
Mm-hmm.
We need to see you make that choice to raise a gun at someone. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's, I think maybe the way to kind of clarify it is like, we don't want to see props for the sake of props. Absolutely
Yes.
not.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
100% absolutely not. If it is
Mm-hmm.
something that you as an actor feel strongly that you need to give
Yeah.
your best performance,
Yeah.
that's when you should use a prop.
Yeah. I'm getting the countdown, and these are not accurate. So I was
Okay.
going to see if there were any questions we got that people. God, we have like maybe 20 seconds.
Oh,
Favorite Criminal
okay.
Minds moment besides working with me?
Working with you. Oh, favorite Criminal Minds moment. Pretty much every, like, our table reads and all of our time with the actors and our producers. That was the greatest family in the world, and
Yeah.
I adored every moment I had there. It really was a very special place to work that
Yeah.
truthfully I'm not sure I'll ever have again, just the
Well,
nature of it, but
yeah.
it was
But
fantastic.
you can't beat that showrunner.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
She was
Miss
good.
Messer, if you're
Yeah.
listening, we love you.
Yes. We miss you.
And we miss you.
Yes. Well, thank
Um,
you for doing this. It's
absolutely.
so fun.
Thank you for having me. Thank you everyone out there for listening and supporting the casting director's cut, and
Yes.
I think
Thank you
that
for being a part of it too. You
my
really.
pleasure. Anytime. Everyone stay safe and stay
Yes.
sane.
Stay safe. Please try to hold on to your sanity. Bye.
Bye.